it becomes very clear that if there were indeed government involvement in the September 11th terrorist attacks, as clearly outlined in the 1962 Northwoods document, that there would also have to be a mass manipulation, if not outright control, of the mainstream media in order to shape the way the news was being reported, in order to set the brainwashing machine into motion. On the morning of September the 11th, there was a lot of video footage and photographs taken of the second tower being struck by the second plane. Fox News interviewed on live television one of their own employees, a Mr. Mark Bernbach, who stated on live television that the plane he personally witnessed crash into the South Tower didn't even appear to be a commercial airliner. Numerous eyewitnesses appeared on other mainstream news networks and made similar statements. The personal testimony of these eyewitnesses was seen once on live television as they were being interviewed by the reporters, and then that news footage was never seen or reported again. The sheer number of inconsistencies with the official story of what happened that morning are overwhelming. Something is being hidden from the American people, and given the fact that the United States government has declared a worldwide war on terrorism, which affects every single person on this planet, someone really needs to ask the question, why haven't we been given all the facts?
The mass media in the United States is the fourth arm of the government, literally. It is comprised of people that come directly out of the government, people who are involved in the government, people who represent the government. The mass media is nothing more than the manner in which they will work to control the American people over a period of time, insidiously, one step at a time, bringing them to the consensus of what they want them to be, what they want them to feel, and what they want them to see as being the truth.
Well, there is an example in history of a republic and in a country filled with educated and cultured people who, in the space of a month, changed into an empire because there was damage to a prominent building, and then immediate legislation was passed, anti-terrorist legislation, and the whole country shifted from a republic to an empire. And this was not the United States, this was Germany in 1933. And it started off as the Weimar Republic, but by the end of January of 1933, the Reichstag, their parliament building, had burned down, and Hitler and the Nazis blamed it on communist terrorists, and it later turned out that they themselves had said it. And then they passed through the Enabling Act, which was national gun registration, national identity cards. They set up detention centers for terrorists and dissenters, which quickly turned into the concentration camps. And Germany was no longer a republic. It became the Third Reich, or empire, the Third Empire. And so we can see that that's happened within living memory. There are plenty of people living in the United States today who lived through that in Germany, and the irony and the parallels are not lost on them.
If they're going to have a global system of government, what type of government would that be? Of course, there are those now that are touting the UN as the only answer because our system is all flawed and our leaders are all screwed up and there's too much corruption here. Well, they want to bring forward this world government through the UN Charter. Many people that support the UN Charter have never read it. And if they had read it and figured out where it came from and compared the UN Charter to the United States Constitution, they'll find that they're absolutely repugnant. You can't have them coexisting. So common sense tells me that if the globalists want a one-world government, they have to destroy the United States Constitution and our way of life. And they've got to do so in such a way that will actually embrace it.
I know many citizens have fears tonight, and I ask you to be calm and resolute, even in the face of a continuing threat. So tonight I announce the creation of a cabinet-level position, reporting directly to me, the Office of Homeland Security.
As a direct result of the September 11th attacks, the Bush administration sought to the creation of the USA Patriot Act and the formation of the Department of Homeland Security. The USA Patriot Act circumvents the U.S. Constitution and invalidates most of our treasured rights in this country. It may seem perfectly acceptable to most Americans that they would have to relinquish some of their rights to gain some sense of safety. But somewhere along the way, someone forgot the fact that it's not our government that gives us our freedoms. They are inalienable rights, and they cannot be taken away. The people of the United States have simply been conditioned to give their rights away freely. The USA Patriot Act seems less of a tool to fight terrorism and more of an instrument to monitor and track and intimidate everyday law-abiding citizens in this country. It is a blueprint for a modern-day, American-style Soviet Union.
Some in this chamber and in our country did not support the liberation of Iraq.
The Patriot Act defines the term domestic terrorism in such broad terms that anyone who might simply speak out about the current administration or engage in political protest could be labeled as a domestic terrorist.
When we're talking about chasing down terrorists, we're talking about getting a court order before we do so.
The U.S. government can monitor all internet activity and phone conversations of any person, anywhere, anytime. Law enforcement officers have the legal authority to break into your home and conduct sneak and peek searches of your belongings. They can do this at any time without your knowledge and without your consent, and they can do this without the need for probable cause and without a search warrant.
The terrorist threats against us will not expire at the end of the year, and neither should the protections of the Patriot Act.
U.S. citizens may be incarcerated indefinitely without charges ever being filed, without access to an attorney, without access to the courts, without a phone call, and completely without due process.
How did you let this happen? Wake up out there. You know, it's your children. Don't you care? Look what these people are doing to you.
The public is being manipulated into adopting these policies because they are not aware they're taking place. They're done at such a high level at the United Nations and at levels above that the public doesn't even see this taking place. They're more concerned with what's happening in Aruba, or they're more concerned about the latest collegiate abduction because that's what they're being force-fed from the media, and they don't know that there is a world court. The average person has no idea that there's a world court or imminent world police. And that is the sad part, is it's being done without their knowledge.